Hi, I'm Sal Mercagliano, Associate Professor of History at Campbell University, a former merchant mariner, and an adjunct professor of maritime industry policy at the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. And welcome to this What's Going On in the Suez? I don't think the heavy stuff is going to come down for quite a while yet edition. It's Sunday, May 23rd, and we've got an update on our favorite vessel, motor vessel Ever Given, which has been stuck in the Suez Canal for an extreme long period of time, over 60 days. Way back in March of 23, Ever Given went aground in the Suez Canal. It took 6 days to free her up. Since then, she has moved and anchored in the Great Bitter Lake. She's been sitting there in the Great Bitter Lake since then. Part of the crew have been allowed to cycle home, 25 crew members on board. At least five have been allowed to cycle home. We assume replacements have come out to her, but we know that there's been some legal cases against her. The nation of Egypt, through the Suez Canal Authority, arrested the vessel, holding her for $916 million. $300 million were due to a bonus, a salvage bonus. 316 was the cost. They wanted to be reimbursed for the salvage of the vessel, and then $300 million for basically disrespecting the canal. Now, Egypt has amended that, come down to $600 million. But still, there's been no movement on freeing the vessel. But here we have a series of stories that came out just over the past 24 hours that I really wanted to talk about. So one of the big ones is this one. This is a Reuters story that came out talking about the ship owner says Suez Canal was at fault over Ever Given grounding. So this Sunday in Egyptian court, there was a case that was heard where the lawyer for the Japanese ship owning company, the Japanese ship owners. Now, this is a very weird situation with this vessel. Ever Given is a Taiwanese company, but they actually leased this vessel. The owner of the vessel is Japanese. She's flagged in Panama. The operating company is German. The crew is Indian. She has Japanese H&M insurance. That's Hull and Machinery. She has UK, British P&I insurance, protection and indemnity. So what they're arguing is the following. They're making the case here that the representatives right here, lawyers representing Shoei Kisen, argue that the Suez Canal Authority had been at fault for allowing the ship to enter the waterway amid bad weather. Ahmed Abu Ali, a member of the legal team, adding that the authority failed to prove any fault by the ship. So basically, what the company is trying to do is put this on the Suez Canal and their pilots for allowing the vessel in the canal in the first place. If there was high winds, if there was a potential for damage to be done or a blockage to happen, then it was on the pilots and the Suez Canal Authority for letting the vessel in. And as if this isn't enough, Shoei Kisen now is claiming $100,000 in compensation, initial compensation for losses related to its detention. The losses associated with a ship being out of service for a month is much more than $100,000. But this is the countersuit against what is going on with Ever Given. And this story has magnified. We see this in Business Insider, where the owner blames the canal, saying it was wrongly allowed the ship to enter the area during poor weather conditions. And this is something I have talked about in a previous video when we looked at that 2D, 3D image of Ever Given going through the Suez Canal. One of the things we talked about was how the ship was never in the center of the canal, was continually moving from bank to bank, seemed to be experiencing issues. And wind issues will move a 400-meter, 1,300-foot long vessel with containers stacked equal to the height of a 14-story building. I mean, this is a huge surface area. Ships do get pushed around by the wind. I can attest to that. I'm a former merchant mariner. I sailed on vessels where the wind can play havoc with a vessel. In case you don't think that's true, we had an entire era of shipping where the power for the vessel was derived by the wind. Wind can move vessels. Yes, wooden vessels are smaller. They're not as big as this, but wind is a factor, just like current's a factor. There are all these factors. Even though we can build the largest man-made objects the world has ever seen, we are still in many times at the mercy of natural events and impacts. It goes on here. The Egyptian court upheld the detention. This just came out just a little while ago, that the Egyptian court rejected the appeal by the Japanese owner holding the vessel in detention, basically argued that they did not show the case. Now, one of the things that's interesting here, I believe it's in this one right here. Another incident here where, oh, excuse me, this is an alternative here, but in this one back here, there we go. We start seeing this argument that there's reports now of the audio recording being used by the case to basically make the argument that, listen, there was discussion on the bridge about this. Right here, recording from the ship that was granted to the court also showed disagreements between the Suez Canal pilots and its controlling center, that would be the authority that allows them into the canal, over whether the ship should pass through the canal. Now, remember, large container ships were going through the canal. The Costco Galaxy was in front of her. Maersk Denver was behind her. Maersk Denver is much smaller, but Costco Galaxy is roughly the same size. And basically, the argument here is that the ship's operating, the owner is saying here the ship should have been chaperoned by at least two tugboats, but this didn't happen. Again, tugboats would have assisted at times in this, but the problem was that the ship continually kept speeding up to overcome the wind impact. And so there was a lot of factors going in here for this grounding to take place. Again, until everybody hears this, and again, the Egyptian court, I'm going to say this, is biased, obviously, in this. They're going to rule in favor of the Suez Canal. And since the vessel is in Egypt, it's in the Suez Canal. It's literally in the Great Bitter Lake. They have not moved it to Port Said. They haven't moved it back down to Suez. She's right there in the Great Bitter Lake. She's stuck there. There's no way to get her out of there until the Egyptians will allow her to go. The crew can't just up anchor and run up the canal. They can be stopped instantaneously, really. This is a deadlock. We're still at this deadlock. In the meantime, this is the story here. Japanese shippers are looking for new ways to Europe. Again, there's three ways to get to Europe. I'm sorry. Well, four ways to get to Europe, basically through the Suez Canal, which is the big issue right now. But obviously, you can go around the Cape of Good Hope. That's expensive. That's long. It's going to increase cost to do it. There's the Arctic route, the Northeast Passage through the Bering Sea, along the northern route along Russia. That requires icebreakers. It's very seasonal too. You only have about a 4 to 6 month window you can do that in. It's shorter. It actually is much shorter. And Russia's trying to get that route open, but several major shipping firms have basically argued against it. Maersk, Mediterranean Shipping Company, CMA have all come out against it. They don't want to do it because of the environmental issues, they say. Now, that may change if the economics changes. That's always the issue, economics. And then the other route is via Panama Canal or the Drake Passage, going the long way, going the east way around it. Obviously, you're constrained by the Panama Canal. The new lock still can handle ultra large container ships. It was, came into service in 2016, but it's designed for vessels built prior to 2011. And the Drake Passage, which is a long route, and it's very dangerous, nasty seas. We already got issues with container ships losing containers. That would be just extremely cost prohibitive. So there's not a lot to change here. Obviously, the big issue is the pointing game. Who's to blame here? The company wants to blame the pilots. The pilots in the canal want to blame the company. And until there's a resolution, we're still at this. Now, in the meantime, traffic's moving through the canal on a daily basis, including evergreen ships. They're moving through the canal. We've seen still delays and issues impacting from this. A lot of companies don't think this will be resolved till summertime, till June or July timeframe. The impact from the delays, which held up over 400 vessels. So that's the latest on Ever Given and what's going on in the Suez. So I'm Sal Mercagliano. I hope you enjoy this video. If you enjoy these type of videos, updates on maritime happenings, please subscribe to the channel. Give it a thumbs up, a like, so that other people will find it, and hit the bell so you'll be alerted about new videos when they come out. So I'm Sal Mercagliano. Sorry, a little tongue tied there. It's a long name. Sal Mercagliano. I'm signing off, and I will see you soon.